Welcome to DrBoyceTV.com, the home for intelligent Black people. Today, I thought that I would, rather than picking a certain topic to discuss, I thought that we would have what I call a B1 conversation. A B1 conversation is where we just talk about whatever's on your mind, and you can literally bring up any topic, and I'll give you my perspective on that topic. There's not much in terms of an agenda, in terms of what I want to talk about today. Well, obviously, there are things that are happening in the world that we're all curious about, and you can feel free to kind of talk about it. Good morning, Patrice. Is that Patrice 6175? And who else do I see? Let me see here. Some of you are on Instagram. My Instagram is the real Boyce Watkins, by the way, if you want to follow there. Deshaun Farad, my man, how you doing, brother? Deshaun is the guy who actually brought up the interesting thing that I had forgotten when Mark Lamont Hill made that comment about Cosby. Deshaun's the guy who sent me a note telling me that Mark reminded me that Cosby had actually tried to get Mark fired at Temple. And so a lot of that stuff with Mark and Cosby was very, very, very personal. And so it's very important that we try to look at the facts versus people's feelings or people's personal agendas and things like that. That's how you really get to the truth. But then again, I think it's important to respect all the different points of view on all the issues that matter. I know the majority of you that are here think that the Cosby exoneration, whatever you want to call it, release was most of you are in agreement. Most of you seem to think that it's a good thing. But then there are some people who disagree, and I think that they should have a right to disagree, and I think that we should hear that, right? But what's interesting is that I heard from some Black lawyers today. Mary Dean interviewed a prosecutor, and the prosecutor was explaining that you had to let him go. You had to let him go. You couldn't, you can get mad. The whole lynch mob could be out there saying he did it, but that doesn't mean he needs to go to jail, right? So that's an interesting thing. Toxic rap culture, you see. So you want me to talk about that? I mean, it just is what it is. It's weaponized. It's basically taking the thing that you love the most and weaponizing it to kill you. That's kind of what the plan always was. That's the agenda. The same way they dropped the drugs in the Black community. The new drug is pretty much through the music because marketing has a huge amount of psychological power. Sigmund Freud, the great psychologist Sigmund Freud, his nephew was one of the original people to actually use the subconscious programming in marketing of products. And basically when Sigmund was going broke, his nephew in America told his boss, he said, I got this uncle in Germany who's this great psychologist, and he can help us use basically phallic symbols and subtle subconscious subliminal stuff to get people to buy products. So that kind of started back then, and marketing just became very powerful. And so now to this day, what you have is this truth that music is actually a more powerful form of marketing than almost anything else. I mean, there's nothing that gets marketed better than hip hop, because hip hop artists were the original social media influencers, even before there was social media. So basically, you have to understand that three things affect the subconscious mind. My wife is an expert in the subconscious mind. Three things affect the subconscious mind, and this is relevant to Black people. One is trauma. We have more than our share of trauma. So the trauma causes you subconsciously to believe in things like white supremacy. You support white supremacy because they consistently traumatize you. Like when they show you images of Black men being beaten to death in front, the cops. Some of you, I don't know about some of y'all have told me you can't watch those images. Well, you probably shouldn't watch them too much, because that's trauma. That programs your subconscious mind to let you know who's in charge. The second thing that affects the subconscious mind is repetition, and music has a lot of repetition. They play it to a beat, and the beat kind of sinks it into your subconscious, and so the repetition basically changes your behavior. You don't even know it. Most people who imitate rappers don't even know that they're imitating rappers. They think if you ask them, they'll say, well, I came up with this by myself. But it turns out you dress just like your favorite rapper. You talk just like them. You do the things that they do. You believe in the things that they believe because you're being influenced. And a lot of people don't even know that it's happening that way. The third thing that affects the subconscious mind is symbols. So symbolism, that's why a lot of politicians love to give Black people symbolism instead of actual substance. So we'll give you a Juneteenth holiday because that's symbolic and it's very cheap, but it makes you feel like we're your friend, when really, people are asking for reparations, right? Like nobody asked for a Juneteenth holiday. They weren't out marching in the streets for a Juneteenth holiday. They wanted reparations, right? So you got to be be really careful because mind control is everywhere. And mind control is something that is used on a regular basis to manage and control you. And that's why on this platform, I already know I'm probably not going to appeal to the majority of our people. I just know this, right? And it's not an elitist thing. It's just more like most of our people are gone. A lot of our people are so brainwashed that they really will fight like hell to maintain a false belief. And people like that are not the ones that I want to hang out with. Like this guy in here that puts mama's cooking in here because he's brainwashed by the whole Kwame Brown stuff. So I'm gonna block him out of here. You got to go, brother. So I wish you a very good life, but this is not the place for you. So everybody say goodbye. His name's Wallazin. So everybody say goodbye to Wallazin. Say goodbye, Wally. Where's Wally? Where's Waldo? Well, Waldo's dead because we just blocked him and put him out of here for life. So keep trolling, keep talking, trolls. I will put you out of here. You do not belong here if you are trolling. Being here is a privilege. It's not a right. I'm not begging anybody to come to this platform. You start acting up, you're going to get put out of class. Let's see here. So King Yo says, they said that, that the building in Miami was purposely destroyed. Ooh, I didn't know that. Okay. Yeah, that's a big deal. That was crazy because they, that building in Miami, they warned, apparently people got warned that building was bad. So somebody's going to go to jail for that. Somebody's going to pay a lot of money and go to jail. That's bad. Not running in the Olympics. I heard that Sha'Carri Richardson got banned for weed. That was very surprising. I didn't know that they banned people for marijuana. But in track and field, I love track and field. I follow it very closely. And I follow on Twitter all my favorite sprinters like, Fred Curley. And I just heard today actually from a guy who's going to the Olympics, a brother named Ronnie Baker. Ronnie Baker actually got second in the 100-meter dash. And I was proud of Ronnie because Ronnie actually ran on the same track team that I did, except we were obviously in different generations, right? But Ronnie, because he's in his 20s and I'm not, but Ronnie Baker got second in the 100-meter dash. So he's going to be on the 4x1. He's going to run the 100 meters. And I just messaged him and I said, man, I was captain of the same track team that you ran on at Ballard High School. And I'm really proud of you. And he just messaged back and he said, thank you. And I'm going to try to get him on here. Ronnie seems like a good guy. He seems like a smart guy. So I follow all the track athletes. I just, Trayvon Bromell and Fred Curley and all those guys. I love just seeing what they're doing. And then some of the great women, Sydney McLaughlin, who's running the 400 hurdle. She just broke the world record at the Olympic trials with 51.9, which is an insanely fast 400 meters time. And I think that her rivalry with Dalilah Muhammad is going to be like one of the key things they're going to feature for the Olympics. But she kicked Delilah's ass in that last race, though. And it's going to be really good. And Sydney McLaughlin went to the University of Kentucky, where I went to school. So as you can see, I'm really excited about track. I don't talk about it much, but 20 years ago, the way I met my daughter is I was her track coach back in Kentucky. I used to coach an inner city track team called the West Side Track Club. And I was the assistant coach. I wasn't the head coach. And I got to know the kids, and it was the best experience ever. So I'm a big track enthusiast, and I love the kids. And in fact, actually, I went back to Louisville, my hometown. I'm going to support a group called Black Achievers. So if you live in that area, or if you live in an area where there's a Black Achievers, you should sign your kids up, because Black Achievers helped me get my first scholarship. So what Alicia and I decided to do is we're going to write them a check for about $20,000 to support their banquet. We said we want to be a title sponsor, and we want to support your banquet, because without you, I wouldn't be here. And it's really awesome to even get a chance to pay it forward. And that actually led to another thought. I know I'm on this weird stream of consciousness. Y'all know how I am. I have a million thoughts a minute. But I was thinking, made me think about HBCUs as well. And I said, one of the reasons that I'm able to come in as a title sponsor for Black Achievers is because I became an entrepreneur, which gave me more access to a little bit more money than I would have had if I'd say gotten a job. If I were an employee, it'd be harder for me to just write off a $20,000 check like that, right? But because I'm an entrepreneur, I've been in different spaces and been able to do different things. And so I think that HBCUs, in order to get out of their financial incarceration, where they're being controlled by other entities who are paying their bills. Whoever pays your bills is always going to be the boss, period. I don't care how much you think, how many rights you think you have. I got freedom of speech. No, you don't. Your boss is always going to tell you what you can and can't say. Right. So for Black people, understanding wealth is critical to freedom. Freedom is second base. Wealth is first base. You can't get to second base without going through first base. And they've been teaching you how to play bad baseball. Well, they've been teaching you that you can run straight to second base to go straight to freedom without actually crossing first base, which is wealth. You must go to first base to get to second. Do you follow what I'm saying? So basically for HBCUs, I'm concerned that all these people like Mackenzie Bezos and others that are coming in and funding these HBCUs are going to start shaping their social agenda. They're going to start controlling what they can and cannot say. That's why, for example, I speculate that's why Howard University has never invited Dr. Claude Anderson to speak, because there's some white person paying the bills who will be offended by Dr. Anderson coming to the campus. So I think that for HBCUs to become economically independent, one thing they have to do is start generating more entrepreneurs than they produce employees. It doesn't mean you don't still produce your employees. You can send your people to work for Goldman Sachs and GE and all that, and you can. That's fine. But those are not going to be your $1 billion donors in the next generation. Those are not going to be the ones who can write that $500,000 check, $1 million check. Like the $1 million checks are going to be written by the people who run companies. Right? At Harvard, Yale, most of their donor base consists of lots of millionaires and billionaires who started companies, and they went to Silicon Valley and created a tech startup and became billionaires. Next thing you know, they go back and write big checks to their alma maters. When I went to the Milwaukee School of Engineering to visit for our son's going to about to start college. He's going to be an engineer. When I was there was a big $100 million building that was donated by one of the guys who helped found Dell Computer, or he was one of the first people, or Intel. I think it was Intel. He was one of the first founders of Intel. So he went off, started Intel, or helped start Intel. So next thing you know, he's a billionaire. So he wrote a $100 million check to the school. Employees can't write $100 million checks most of the time, even high-paid employees. So HBCUs, I know that they were created primarily to teach Black people to go work for white people. They were designed to develop a working class that would support white corporations. But I think we have to go to the next level and start making sure. I believe every Black child that goes to any university anywhere should learn the fundamentals of powernomics, the fundamentals of entrepreneurship, so that if in case you're not happy with your job, you can quit. They should know the fundamentals of investing in the stock market so you can own assets. They should know the fundamentals of real estate so they can buy the block. They must also have a cultural awareness and commitment to building the Black community. That means being B1. B1 means that you put yourself at the top of the priority list. You can't go doing all this other stuff for other people and still think you're going to help your own hood. Why is your hood starving and you're doing good? That doesn't make any sense. You should be contributing some of those resources, not in donations. Donations are not the answer. I'm talking about investment, infrastructural investment. Like Biden right now is pushing a multi-trillion-dollar infrastructural investment plan that is going to help rebuild America in certain ways, right? It's not going to come with polite little donations. It's going to happen through sort of making this a top priority and investing in a very aggressive way. That's how you build infrastructure for something. So I think with our HBCUs, you need to start producing those entrepreneurs. You need to start having people trained in powernomics. Powernomics and entrepreneurship together means that not only do I know how to start businesses and actually hire Black people, but also I understand why I need to do that, right? That's the other thing too. You can't have everybody searching for a job and nobody with the ability to create a job, right? That's a different mindset. So I think that if we have millions of job creators in the community, then we'll have millions of jobs, right? Does that make sense? So because one person getting one job does not change a community. It doesn't do anything for anybody except for that one person, right? But when a person creates a company that they can go and employ dozens and dozens of people, and that's changing dozens of lives. It's very important. I've seen this up close, and that's what I believe. Sha'Carri Richardson, I don't think Sha'Carri Richardson should have been banned from marijuana. I thought that was kind of crazy. But then again, you have banned substances, and I assume she knew the rules, and it just is what it is. Let me see here. Next, why are they constantly insult our intelligence? Or they constantly insult our intelligence? Yeah, they do. But that's what they do. If you fall for the okie doke, then why wouldn't they, try to get you with the okie doke? Like if you stuck on stupid, why wouldn't they take advantage of your stupidity? I mean, it's like saying, if I'm not playing defense, then why would I be mad at the other team for putting the ball in the basket? You're not playing defense. That's why they're scoring on you. They're dunking on you because you're not guarding the goal. Like you're supposed to play defense. Let's see here. Let's talk about banning swim caps for natural hair. I did hear about that with the Black swimmers. They were upset because they can't wear the caps. yeah, that's kind of disappointing. That's all I can say. I don't have much comment about hair. I don't even have any hair. Some whistleblower lived in that building in Miami. That's why it blew up. Oh, yeah, I agree. It didn't just fall. Oh, crap. The law should work for Black people the same way it works for white people. It should, but it doesn't. The Bill Cosby case is just a microcosm of all that. And the prosecutors, the Black legal experts that I've heard from, basically are people who have made the clear point that, Cosby got off on a technicality, pretty much. There's no way to say that he's innocent. There's no way to prove that. And there's a lot of accusers, and that's something that has to be heard. But having lots of accusers is not the same as proving guilt. And that's where the dilemma comes into play, because there are people who feel that because there are so many accusers that, it must be true because so many people said it. But at the same time, there are people who say that, look, according to the letter of the law, you're supposed to prove that the person's guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. They haven't done that, right? So legally, you have to let him go. This is according to their system that they built with their rules, right? You can't just agree with the system when it agrees with you. If it's your system, then it's your system. But then, and then also when you talk about the volume of accusers, that's an interesting thing, because I've seen, situations where people will cherry pick, in terms of, I'm not saying this happened with Cosby, but I've seen it happen with me, for example. If you are a person, now don't get me wrong, I've never had anything like any Bill Cosby type problems. Oh, God, no. But I've seen stuff online where people will handpick, because they have an agenda or whatever. They'll handpick people that have an issue with me whatsoever, for whatever reason. Maybe they're jealous. Maybe I used to do business with them and I cut them off, and they're mad because I stopped giving them money. And they'll grab like 5 people and they'll say, these 5 people hate Boyce Watkins, right? And now, mind you, I've talked to probably 5,000 people during that time. They didn't talk to the other 4,995. They talked to 5, the 5 people who are not happy with me. And then they'll say, look, if all these people don't like Boyce, all these people think Boyce is a bad person, so it must be true. And it's like, no, in statistics, they actually call that selection bias. Selection bias is when you're cherry picking what you're looking for. You're not grabbing a random sample. You're specifically looking for specific people. So, for example, for most of you in this room, if my goal was to do a hit piece on you, right, all I'd have to do is go through, if I could go through your entire life and find every person that you had an issue with, every ex-boyfriend that was mad at you, every ex-girlfriend that hates your guts, and every person going all the way back to elementary school who thought you were a bad person, I could make you look pretty terrible. Like, I could really ruin you by featuring only those people to talk about how terrible of a person you are. I can make you look horrible, right? Politicians do this really well. Like, if you watch those political commercials, the Republicans make they play the bright, shiny music when the Democrats on the screen. Then they'll play they'll have thunderstorms and dark imagery and all this other stuff when the Republican candidate's on. But then the Republicans do the same thing to the Democrats to make you think the Democrats are the devil, right? So that's just a game. That's a selection bias game. So with Cosby, I'm not convinced that all the people that are in the pile of accusers are legitimate accusers. I do not believe that. I think that proving that somebody drugged a drug addict is a problematic concept to begin with. If somebody's hooked on drugs and they're chasing Cosby down to get more drugs, and then they say, no, but that time he drugged me, it's hard to believe that. It's hard, so I think that's what it is. You don't have enough evidence. And I think there are people that have a hard time accepting that, because they're also triggered by the historical habit of America of forming vigilante lynch mob justice when it comes to Black men. That there are many things that they will do to Black men that they don't do to anybody else. They'll form a whole lynch mob. My great grandfather was in a store. I told you, some of you guys, a story. He was in a store and a white man stepped on my grandmother's toe. And my grandfather, because we believe in our family and protecting our women, he took a brick. I mean, the white man got smart, called his wife the N-word and got in her face. My grandfather took a brick and busted this man upside the head in Alabama in 1921. Well, they didn't give him a fair trial. They didn't give him, proper procedural anything. He didn't have any due process. They just went and they lynched him. They hung my great grandfather, Albert Sanders is his name. They hung him from a tree, right? And this is history. This has been going on for a very long time. So, this is what there's a special kind of justice that they have for Black men that they don't have for anybody else. And then also there's a special type of justice that white women get access to that no one else gets access to. Like, let me just lay this out here for you. This is a thought I had. Some of you, I hope some of you can get what I'm saying. For some people, it's hard for them to actually understand what I'm saying here. I thought about it like this, and I said, this is interesting. Okay. So if you think about the whole Cosby case, Cosby went to prison. He was going to die in prison, most likely. And he had to pay $3 million to Andrea Constand because he allegedly touched her breast, right? He allegedly, when she went to sleep, he touched her boob. And that was, she got $3 million and he was going to die in prison. And I thought about it like this. Now bear with me. There was a time where a woman touched my penis, right? Touched my genitals against my will. And I was like, don't touch me like that. And honestly, to be honest with you, I kind of laughed it off. Like, girl, you better stop like that, right? And I had no interest in this woman. I did not want to be with her. She was just a friend who got a little bit too fresh. And I just let her know, like, I'm not interested in all of that, right? I wonder what would have happened if I went to court, went to a lawyer and said, I want her to pay me $3 million because she touched my penis. And also, I expect her to be in prison for a decade. Would that work? Would that have worked for me as a Black man? Would I be able to send this woman to prison for a decade and get $3 million because she touched one of my body parts one time? Yes or no? I would argue that the answer is no. I've never heard of any case in history where a Black man was able to get $3 million out of a white woman because the white woman touched his genitals. And y'all know white women are as freaky as everybody else. They want the Black man's equipment as much as anybody does, right? That's why they love us so much, right? So I think that, that's something I think is worth discussing, like putting on the table and just saying, why is a white woman's body, you talk about white privilege, why is a white woman's body seem that precious that you should die in prison because you were accused of touching her? You touched a white woman. You should go to prison for 20 years. There's no sentence long enough to punish you adequately for what you did. And the thing is, I don't know if I can say this and be understood by people that are listening. Of course, the first reaction a lot of people will have is to counterattack and say, oh, you're being sexist and you're condoning, assault. No, I'm not condoning anything. I ain't gonna touch nothing that don't belong to me. In fact, nothing belongs to me. Even my wife's body that belongs to her. I tell her that belongs to her, but I'm her husband. So of course, if I want to use my hands and get frisky, I can do that if I want to, but I understand that belongs to her. So let's make that clear. But just as a thought exercise, I'd like to just kind of consider that. Where does this double standard kind of come from that you can put your hands all over me, and the best I'm gonna get is the right to tell you, get your hands off me, right? But if I was to touch you one time, I'm paying. I'm gonna go broke because I'm gonna have to give you all my money, and so after you take all my money, you're gonna send me to jail to rot in prison. To hell with my children needing their father, my family. I'm away from my family. I'm in this terrible place where I might get raped 100 times, all because I touched a white woman. I think that's something we have to at least talk about. Nobody else will talk about this because they are so embedded deeply into this assumption that white women's bodies are that valuable. But I'm trying to figure that out. Why is her body valuable and mine is not? That I think that's important to kind of think about. So anyway, let me see here. Any thoughts on the investigations related to business practices that the Chinese regulators were looking into regarding Diddy stock? Yeah, you know what? I bought into the IPO of Diddy Cha-Ching, which is the Chinese version of Uber. And I like the IPO. I like the company a lot. They're just a great company. And but then the Chinese government just always gets in the way. They're like, they remember that term cock blocking? Like they're like the financial version of that. Like they're always getting all up in the Kool-Aid with these companies. And it creates a tremendous amount of risk when it comes to investing in Chinese companies. So some of them are actually good deals on the market, like Alibaba, because the government has hammered the stock price so badly because they're always investigating and always changing regulations and stuff. So it creates what's called political risk with these companies. And with Diddy, when I saw this investigation happen and the price drop, I just bought some more shares. I bought more shares because I think the investigation is going to, be fine, and the stock's going to go up. But I just hate that. So I don't know what's going on, but I don't think they did anything wrong. Let's see here. Black Army. Where do we start? I am not a military specialist, so as far as creating an army, I'm not the one to consult on that. I know that you have the NFAC out here. Now they're having some problems with what happened with the brother that got accused of the whole thing with the police officer, but I think they should be heard because they have their side of the story. And what happens is when things like this happen, people try to make you guilty by association. They try to connect you to the person. Well, you were friends with the person who did this, so that means you're just as guilty. And that's all. A lot of that's nonsense. Like I had to go. I went through some of that. People were like, "Well, you were friends with Charlemagne, so you're responsible for what Charlemagne did 20 years ago, allegedly." And I'm like, "No, I don't. I mean, I know Charlemagne just like 10,000 other people do, and I haven't talked to him in 2 years, and I can't take responsibility for what another man did years before I met him. So just stop that nonsense. That's silly." Or they did that again. There was another brother who had actually done some stuff with some cops. It was a real tragic thing. He got killed and everything down in Louisiana a few years ago. And I remember I got a call from a journalist who was asking me about him. And they said, "Yeah, he was a follower of yours." I said, "He was? I didn't know." And he said, "Yeah, can you check your email to see if you got an email from him?" And I did check my email, and I noticed this guy had emailed me many times, and he came to one of my events. And and then my team member, somebody on my team said, "Yeah, remember that guy? He was real serious." And I said, "Yeah, I remember him. I saw him in L.A." And but the thing was, I was like, I can't take responsible for what this brother does. Like there's 140,000 people in the Black Business School. I can't take responsibility for what everybody does, just like they can't take responsibility for what I do. If I do something as a man, that's on me. It's not on you just because, you're a follower of Boyce Watkins, so you're responsible for what he does. That would be silly. That doesn't make any sense. So I hate when they start making these associations. They do that. They try to do that with the Nation of Islam. They do that politically. You'll hear somebody will say, "Well, a Trump supporter killed a child today, so that means Trump killed a child." What are you talking about? That sounds stupid. Like, get out of here with that stuff. All right. So Cosby has had issues his whole life because he's a good Black man. Cosby to me is either a good man who did some bad things or a bad man who did some good things, or maybe we just don't know exactly. But I think that there's a reason. If I'm Camille, I'm kind of mad at him. So I don't think we should let Cosby completely off the hook. I think it's okay to support his release, but I don't think you should get carried away. I don't think any intelligent person is able to look at that and say, "Oh yeah, I know for sure that he would never do anything bad." Because at that point, what you're getting into is something I don't agree with, which it would be celebrity worship. I think you should not worship these celebrities to the point where you think they can do no wrong, because there's a lot of celebrities that can do a lot of wrong. And I'm not saying Cosby's one of them. I'm just saying, let's not get carried away. He shouldn't. Where I stand on Cosby is simple. The man should not have been in prison because they didn't have the evidence to lock him up. Judge Joe Brown made it very clear when he responded. Judge Joe Brown responded to Mark Lamont Hill, and he said, now this is a judge who's resided over thousands of cases. He said, there was not due process followed in this case. So not only should he have been released, but an exoneration was not even necessary because he wasn't even properly convicted. It was something like that. I put it on my Twitter. My Twitter is Dr. Boyce Watkins 1. If you want to see exactly what the judge said, go take a look at that. And I love that response because it gets away from this whole vigilante mob justice thing that people think they can get away with. That's another type of white privilege. That's all that is. It's just another type of white privilege. It's people saying, well, we are allowed to just believe what we want to believe, even if the system says that, even if our rules say that, that it shouldn't have gone that way. We just believe he's guilty, so that's why we think we should be able to do what we want. Well, life ain't supposed to work like that. Let me see here. Cosby never admitted he comes from a celeb party culture of the 70s. Yeah, he never admitted to drugging people against their will. The media misinterpreted that. Cosby made a good statement about that on his Instagram page. I put it on my Instagram also. My Instagram is the real Boyce Watkins, so feel free to follow me at the real Boyce Watkins. Please hit the thumbs up button, by the way. Please hit the thumbs up button. Let me see here. The Black News Channel is fake news. Yeah, well, I think that Mark kind of showing such a strong bias in the Cosby case probably doesn't help the Black News Channel. Because remember, the Black News Channel was started by J.C. Watts, who's a Republican. So I'm wondering if they are trying to at least I like journalists that are just fair and honest. I like fair and I like balanced reporting where you just let all sides be heard. I don't like this new brand of journalism where journalists feel like they're supposed to give you a bunch of opinions and whatever and tell you what they think. I don't want your opinion. I don't need you to give me my opinion. Let me form my own damn opinion. The way Alicia and I consume the news during the pandemic, especially, we stopped watching the news. We stopped watching CNN. We stopped watching MSNBC, and we sure as hell wasn't watching Fox because everything was biased and had spin. We have relatives where I can instantly tell by talking to you for about 30 seconds whether you are a CNBC or an NBC watcher, not CNBC, I'm sorry, MSNBC watcher or a Fox News watcher. I could tell because the brainwashing, it was so deep. Like literally, there's like a checklist of beliefs that you have based on what network you watch all day. And that stuff, I stay away from it like the plague. It is literally poison. So I hope the Black News Channel is not going to go in that direction. Because I think Mark if he's trying to be an objective journalist, which I guess he's not, I don't know what he is. I don't know exactly what his profession is exactly. But yeah, that comment was kind of a little bit too much. Let me see here. I just want to talk about, let's see. Why most rap hooks have turned into 4-word repeaters. Because many rappers are not artists. Artists are supposed to have a range of emotions and experiences that they share in the music. A lot of rappers are just corporate puppets. They're just simply making songs with a certain formula that will make the most money for the corporation. That's why a lot of rap sounds alike because it's corporatized, right? It's a business model. It's not art in many cases. Some of it is. The artists, the real artists that I see are the ones that are not on the radio. The ones on the radio are pretty much, it's like a commercial. It's really like a commercial where you're literally hearing the same thing over and over again. And it's pushing a message, pushing a culture. If you watch a video, pay attention to the imagery. It's not as much about the music as it is about the imagery, right? The imagery has to be some guy that looks like he's from the hood with, driving a sports car with pretty girls in the back with some liquor over here, smoking something. With a gun somewhere nearby, a bunch of money, maybe a bunch of jewelry. Like it's literally the same damn formula that's been around for like 25 years. There's and it's just different variations of the same thing over and over and over again. So anyway, let me keep going. Let's see. B1. My husband and I are trying to implement the $5 a day investing plan for our 2-year-old son. Should we invest in an index fund? And is Fidelity a good company to use? Yes and yes. I think you can do a Fidelity index fund, something like an S&P 500 fund, and do that for your son, $5 a day. And you do that, and just set it and forget it. So maybe $35 a week or $150 a month, whichever you're comfortable with. And you set it and forget it. By the time your son is 25 or 30, if you educate him properly, he'll never have to work again. He'll never have to work for anybody for his entire life. He'll be able to live his best life and be free. And so that's what it is. By the way, if you want to get a copy of it, you can go to theallblackagenda.com. And also we have a free life. I have a free life class at blackkeystogreatness.com. The URL's on the screen if you're watching on YouTube. Blackkeystogreatness.com is that's just a program I put together with all kinds of stuff in terms of how to think like a successful person. How to manage adversity, how to overcome your haters, how to set goals, how to manage your time. I had to be really relentless in terms of my commitment to success. I was talking to my son today. Today's his 28th birthday, and his name's David. And David is not my biological child. Most of my children are not my biological child. And but I love him just as if he were my own. And I was telling him about, when I was 28, how that was the worst year of my life. It was literally the toughest time of my life. I hit rock bottom. Everything was going wrong in my life, everything. And I said, but that was actually the best year of my life in hindsight, because that was when I began to rethink everything. That was when I reassessed how I was going to approach everything. I stopped trying to be a white man in black skin. I stopped trying to fit in to whatever crap they trained me to pursue. And I started pursuing this relentless idea of being myself, and believing that was good enough, and embracing my blackness. And I gained a level of toughness that you get when you hit rock bottom. Sometimes in order for your greatness to be born, the old you really has to die. And if you look at most superhero movies, that's the way it works, right? The superhero either dies or comes very close to death, and they emerge as something better at a different level, right? But it's all about how you process it. It's all about how you process it. And so because I processed it in a certain way, it worked out really well for me. Like, that was literally the turning point in my whole life. That literally if I had not gone through that year when I was 28 years old, I wouldn't be the person that I am right now, because at that time I had a whole different plan for my life, a whole different path that I wanted to pursue. So don't run away from your tough times. Don't feel sorry for yourself when things get hard. Don't let people get you into this pity party that, oh my God, because you're black, it's going to be so sad for you and you can't succeed at anything. No, embrace the struggle. Embrace that shit. Like, if you embrace it and really hug it and just kind of say, okay, I'm going through, I'm paying the price right now. I'm building up my testimony. And you really, really just look at eye to eye, like you're looking at staring down a bully on the playground, and you're about to get your ass whooped, but you stare that bully down and you say, let's do it. Let's make this happen. There's something that occurs. I think that this is a natural process designed by God in the universe to make you great. That is how you truly become who you're meant to be. And a lot of times we short circuit that. We short circuit the work that God has in store for us, because we think that somehow that pain never comes with a gain. That pain is only trauma, that it's only that pain is just something bad and that's all that there is. No, sometimes pain can be a wonderful thing. When you go to the gym and you work out and you have some pain, that can mean that you're actually pushing your body to its limits, and you're going to be the best in the best shape of your life. So stop running away from the discomfort and the challenges. Face that damn thing. And if you face it, I'm telling you, I don't know about everybody else, but I can tell you, I thank God for all my challenges. I thank God for all my setbacks. I thank God for all my adversaries. I thank God for every hater I've ever had, because Lord knows every time I just buckle down and tense up and look that shit in the eye, oh my God, every time I come back stronger. That's how you get seasoned. That's how you get tough. So anyway, blackkeystogreatness.com, that's the URL. It's totally free. I made it totally free. You can jump in there and there's just, the world according to Boyce Watkins in terms of strategies that I use, specific strategies that I designed on my own to become successful in a world that I don't believe is designed for a black man to be successful. I did not want to be a typical Negro. I did not want to be like everybody else. I did not want to be like my friends. I saw a lot of my friends going to prison, getting hooked on drugs, ended up in terrible situations, ended up broke with babies' mamas and all kinds of chaos going on. And I said, no, I want a better life than that. So I started decomposing and dissecting their choices, and how those choices, how A leads to B leads to C leads to D. And so I learned how to just kind of make different decisions. And because you have to do that, because if you do everything on autopilot and you don't have a consciousness about your life, like I'm talking about, and just really an extreme level of consciousness and awareness of where you are and how this fits into the whole scheme of things, then you're going to get guided down the wrong path like every other sheep that's out here. 80% of these people are damn sheep. They say a bunch of crap, and if you're analyzing what they're saying, I'm like, yeah, you sound just like this other person over here, right? So the people that tend to be successful, like I hear guys talking about, like that they think they're an alpha or whatever, and I'm like, no, you don't really sound like an alpha, because if you were really an alpha, you wouldn't sound like all the other fake alphas I just ran into. There's a way that an alpha should have the ability to go on his own path without fear. And just kind of know that that's the path that he's choosing, and it's okay that everyone else chose a different path. That to me is one of the definitions of what it means to be an alpha male, alpha female, whatever the case may be. So anyway, let me quit talking. Let me keep going. This is why they stopped black men from making love songs. We were in love, building families. Absolutely, yeah. They don't want black men celebrating black women, and you have black men who think that that's simping or whatever. And I think that's so sad. That you would disrespect your mother like that. Maybe they hate their moms. I don't know what's wrong with these guys, but I want to apologize to every black woman who has to see this kind of ridiculous immaturity being promoted in the community. But that's what it is. They want to promote gayness, and they want to promote hatred of women, right? Because that's how you keep families from building, because your family becomes your strength. That's your core strength. That's one of your last lines of defense. In fact, most of the cultures get that. Asian culture, African culture, people in South America, it's family, 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 family. Whereas you get here, it's like, well, to hell with these women. What? I just think it's crazy to me. It makes no sense. So now they let him out. Will he get compensation for the time he was there? Probably not. But I heard he's suing, and I hope that he does sue. Judge Joe allowed Mark Lamont to look foolish without clowning him directly. Oh, okay, that's good. Yeah, Judge Joe Brown's very smart man. Let's see here. Keep spitting facts. Okay, I sure. I will give you the world according to Boyce. How about that? Do you think that we will be in a major war, maybe with China? The war's already begun. The war is economic, and it's technology, right? So all these cyber attacks and all that's part of the war. And also the economic warfare is always going on. The Chinese are not as destructive as the Americans are when it comes to declaring war. Like, Americans will pull up to your country with aircraft carriers and, aim our nuclear bombs at you. Whereas the Chinese will just get you economically. That's how they push their power. It's very soft power. So they'll be very polite. They walk softly, but they carry a great big economic stick. Let's see. Erica King says, we don't have intelligent rappers anymore. And if they are intelligent, they're not allowed to show it. That is true. Ignorance is in style. I see a lot of intelligent people who pretend to be ignorant so they can fit in. That's why I'd say I encourage you to teach your kids to not care about fitting in. My mother used to do that with me. My mother used to tell me, why are you trying to fit in with them? Like, who cares if they have, designer jeans or whatever? You don't need that stuff in order to be important. And that made a difference. That helped me a lot because I didn't really need to fit in. I didn't fit in with white people I knew. And I also didn't fit in with a lot of the black people I knew. So being a little bit of a loner helped me to develop my own path alone without feeling like I had to fit into somebody else's expectation. And that allows you to kind of have the courage to say, no, thank you. When you see somebody doing something stupid, you can walk away from that. Like I saw friends, I saw guys that would go and like in college, because they wanted to fit in, like they would pledge a fraternity. And they would be doing like the craziest illegal stuff, like nasty, crazy gay stuff and just all kinds of stuff and messing up their grades and giving away all their money and letting guys do only God knows what to them. And when they approached me with that stuff, I was like, man, you better get out of here with that. Like, there was nothing inside of me that felt any sort of peer pressure to go and engage in that self-destructive behavior that I saw from some of the dudes on my campus. I was like, what in the holy hell makes you think that I'm going to want to do any of that? I'm not doing that. I'm just to be your friend? No. I was already friends with guys that were in the fraternities. I was like, if you can't be my friend the way we are, then you'll never be my friend. And that was, I don't know, that was just something I guess I got from my parents. My father was like that. My father was a guy who would just, he said when his credit got good, he would have people calling asking him to co-sign stuff. And he would just cuss them out. He'd be like, why the hell would I co-sign for you when you don't even give a damn about your own credit? What in the hell makes you think that I'm going to expect you to give a damn about mine? And that makes sense, right? And so I saw that with my father, that kind of like, I don't give a damn attitude. And I think I have a little bit of that where it's like, no, that's stupid. Like, I'm not doing something that's stupid just because everybody else is doing it. And I think it's important to have a little bit of that when you're black, because there's a lot of stupid stuff going on. Like some of these internet challenges are stupid, and I think that when you don't know who you are, you fall victim to that. So anyway, let me keep going. Let's see here. I'm starting a Vanguard account. Let's see. Ronald Wallace says, I'm starting a Vanguard account for my teenage son to trade stocks. What do you think? I think that's a great idea. I would not let him control the bulk of the money that you give him, though. So maybe you let him have a custodial account where he can get his hands dirty and kind of learn how to trade. But then you keep the bulk of what you're going to give him as an inheritance and all that. because that way he doesn't, get crazy at 18 and decide he wants to take all your hard-earned money and just blow it on something silly. Because a lot of young people are not mature enough to handle a lot of money. Like, that's why these NBA players get their first contract and they go broke, because at 21, 22, you don't know what to do with big money. You just do stupid stuff with it. It's not till you get about really 30 to 35 that people are truly financially mature most of the time. Sometimes you luck out and you have a 28, 27-year-old who can do it, but it takes a while because you got to go through some stuff. You have to lose money to know how to really value it sometimes. And some of you may be lucky, you may have kids that are advanced, but that's been my observation. Let's see, Michael Swimmer. I don't know much about Michael Swimmer. I don't know that name. I'm sorry. Let me see here. Somebody says Sha'Carri Richardson shouldn't have been smoking marijuana. The Olympic rules are different versus U.S. rules. She knew better. Yeah, she did. She knew better. So I don't know what to say. I mean, Sha'Carri Richardson is very fast. I follow track and field very closely. She's a great athlete, and I'm very sorry to hear she can't compete. Dr. Watkins, what can one do if he or she has $1 million idea without the funding for it to manifest? I would try to fund the idea on whatever scale that you have, like whatever amount of money you have. You can do a smaller version of that idea. Sometimes I'll see ideas that are really big and really grand. Like, I'll see people, they have $1 billion ideas, but they don't have $1 billion. And I'm like, well, you might want to change that to $1,000 idea or a $10,000 idea until you get, big enough to really go for the $1 billion vision. That's one of the areas where I like to help fill in the void for Powernomics. Dr. Claude Anderson has a lot of really big, powerful ideas in Powernomics and Black Labor, White Wealth, and I'm a huge advocate of all those ideas. But to make it a little more digestible, I then come in and try to supplement by saying, okay, what can you do on a family-by-family basis that doesn't require you to get 40 million Black people on the same page, that doesn't require you to wait for the government, that doesn't require you to get a bank to loan you $1 million? What can you do right now in your household, a domain that you control, that will allow you to begin that process toward building wealth? And when you think about the model in that way, specific microcosmic models like that, you find that any Black family in America can have more wealth than the average white family within one generation by taking very small basic steps. Like, even just the $5 a day plan alone will be enough to put you ahead of most white people, because most white people don't save. Most white people don't really invest that well. Most white people are not doing as well financially as you might think. So if you have that number, you can look at that mark, and if you engage in specific steps to move your family forward, you'll get there. So I like things like that because I'm tired. I don't like waiting around for people. I don't like hoping that white people decide to do something different, or hoping that the government gives me access to what I need, or that a bank will loan me the money. I've always been the guy. Even in high school, I used to be like that. When I used to get frustrated because when I wanted to go somewhere, I had to wait for my mother. I had to go wake her up from her nap and ask her to take me somewhere. And then sometimes she would be running late, or sometimes she didn't want to do it. So I got a moped. Or at first I used my bike. Then I got a moped. And I used to ride that moped all throughout the whole city of Louisville. I would go 50 miles. If I had an appointment 50 miles away, I would plan it out, and I would get on my little moped and I would go 50 miles. And I did it because I liked knowing that I could control the outcome, right? So maybe that's an issue for me, right? Maybe I was a control freak, but that made me feel more comfortable than hoping that somebody was going to do something where I didn't know if necessarily they were going to come through. So maybe Alicia, my wife is a therapist, so she probably said that I had some trust issues or something, but who knows? Maybe I do. And I think trust issues can benefit you, especially, in America, when I see so many Black people who get their feelings hurt because they thought white people were going to come through for them and they didn't, right? Or they thought that because they went to Brown University and they got a degree in economics that they could go get the same job as the white guy, or because they graduated from Duke with an MBA, they're going to get the same opportunities as their white classmates. I don't believe that. I believe that you're better off by having a plan B, a plan D, a C, and a plan D, and having multiple ways to skin that cat. I'm also a believer that when you're Black, I think every Black person on this earth should understand how to create something of their own, so that if the job that they're offered doesn't give them what they want, they always have options. So basic ideas in terms of freedom in life is to know that freedom is the cousin of options. Freedom and options are related. When you have options, you have freedom. If you have no options, you have no freedom. A lot of people get put into a system where you're trained to position yourself, where you are so reliant on the system to provide for you that you give yourself no options. You have no way out. You have no savings, no investments, no multiple streams of income, no property ownership, no other options out there, no skill set to even create anything else, because they had you spending all your time training on how to do one thing, working for white people. And then you're stuck. And then you have no freedom. And that's where a lack of freedom comes from. It's because you never were trained to create options for yourself. I know PhDs in that category. I know PhDs who went to school till they were 30 and thought that because they went to school this long, that the economic system would just take care of them. And then you see these documentaries everywhere about people with PhDs who make less money than Burger King employees. How the hell does that happen? How is it that you got a doctorate? You're one of the smartest people on the damn planet, or in the top 1%. You busted your butt for many years in school, and you can't make more than $40,000 a year. No, if I'm gonna do that level, if I'm gonna work that hard, I'm going to work hard at something that's going to get me some bread, because it's going to make me some money. So it doesn't mean you can't be skilled in whatever area that matters to you. But what happens is that if you understand economics as the backdrop to that, then what's happening is it's like you're building whatever kind of car you want, but the economics is your engine for the car. You see, a lot of people build the fancy car and they hope that white people put an engine in it. Like, you get all this skill and you're hoping that someone will hire you to pursue whatever it is you're trained to do. Like, you go to an HBCU and you learn business management. So then you go out into the world and you're hoping that some white company is going to come along and give you a business to manage, right? I'm the guy who says, sure, go to Howard and study business management. But if you study entrepreneurship in addition to business management, then that means that you can say, I've got this ability to manage a business, and I can create the business that I manage. So I'm not going to wait for somebody else to sign me up. I'm going to sign myself. E40, the rapper, used to talk about signing himself. He said, I'll never cut myself from my own record label, right? That's how E40 was able to remain relevant as a hip hop artist for about, 30 years. Sugar T, his sister, was on my podcast the other day, and that culture runs in their family. You see, entrepreneurship and wealth building is a culture. If you have that culture in your family, then it ain't about like going to business school and all that. I don't even know. I think Sugar T has an MBA or something like that. I don't know if E40 went to college, where he went to college or whatever, but in their family, there's a mindset that just says, we're creative. We're gonna create things that work for us, create systems that benefit us. And we don't need anybody's permission to do that. And I think that's where, and you see the creativity actually in E40's music. He's one of the most creative people out here, and Sugar T is very creative too. And you can just tell, like, just as a family, that there was a mindset that drove all that. And if you go back a generation, I think that Sugar T did mention that their father was a hustler and a business owner and stuff like that. So that makes a difference. So so teach that to your kids. Forget all this nonsense that, this sort of mainstreamish thinking that just boxes you in. And then you end up being part of what they call the frustrated Black middle class. And these are all the Black people that have all the degrees and all the credentials, but they're not happy. They're pissed off every day because they find that what they thought was the pot of gold had no gold in it. So anyway, I'm going to go. I got to get out of here, guys. It was really good talking to you, and I hope that this conversation was helpful to you. It was just me literally coming on here, just, telling what was on my mind. And so anyway, blackkeystogreatness.com is where you can go, actually, if you want to sign up for the free class I told you about. And don't let anybody tell you that you need a bunch of money to be in the Black Business School. That's not true. We got plenty of free stuff. So just join for free if you don't have any money. But what we do ask is we do try to create a donor base, right? Meaning that if we show you how to make money and you go out and make money, we hope you'll come back and support the Black Business School so we can support other people, right? So that's one thing that we do that I think works is our goal is to create as many money-making entrepreneurs and business owners and investors as we can who are going to go out and do well. And then hopefully you'll come back and support things that we're doing in the Black Business School, because you cannot run a business without money. And I know that some people don't understand that. Some people think that Black businesses that charge a fee for certain things, that they're robbing people. And that makes it very hard to build a Black business. That's why white businesses thrive and Black businesses end up dying, is because there are Black people that will attack Black businesses more than they go after white businesses, which is about the sickest thing in the world. But that's what the model is. And I'm laying it out here for you so you'll understand what the goal is. Our goal is we want to have business centers all throughout the United States, all throughout the world, actually. And we know the solution. We have the formula, and we, unfortunately, we live in a world where people will invest in a lot of bad ideas before they invest in the good ideas, because I believe they truly don't want to solve the problem. They don't want to solve the problem of the racial wealth gap and all that, because if they did, there are people out here that know the solution. If they gave me $1 billion and said, go, shrink the racial wealth gap, I could come up with 20 ideas in about 10 minutes and put them down. I don't need any credit. I don't need you to pay me for my time. Here are my ideas. Implement these, take the billion and go do it, right? But they don't want to solve the damn problem. That's what your problem is. Your problem is that they don't want to solve the problem. The problem is not the problem, because the problem is already solved. The problem is that they don't want to solve the problem. That's your problem, right? That comes from the fact that you live in America. And anybody who thinks that we live in a country that wants Black people to win is sorely mistaken. You are in a competition where people don't necessarily go out of their way to hate you, but they're not going to go out of their way to save you. You have got to save yourself. If you don't do that, then you will continue to lose. So let's not be losers. Let's be winners. I wish you guys the best. I'll see you guys soon. Have a good day. Hit the thumbs up button if you could on the way out. And also, again, I'll give you my Instagram. If anybody wants to follow me on Instagram, please follow me on Instagram, because I end up having to block about 30 people a day, because I'm purging stupid people out of my social media. There's my Twitter. It's Dr. Boyce Watkins 1. And my Instagram is The Real Boyce Watkins. And I swear to God, when I tell you guys, I have no problem getting rid of people that are disruptive to the mission. I'm very happy to do that. I probably kick out 1,000 people a week because their energy is just bad. But I want the good people in there so that we can actually do something worthwhile and do something for our kids, because I'm not playing with you. I'm 100% serious. We can win this war. We just got to be serious. And I want serious people on my team. I ain't got time for the nonsense. So take care, guys. Have a good day. I hope you guys are doing well, and I'll see you soon. Take care. Peace.